We know that so many people across the country are facing a difficult challenge. How to explain something so horrible to the children in their lives? ABC's Juju Chang spent the day consulting with the experts.
I was in shock.
It was terrifying. I'm still terrified. I think I'm still in shock.
When adults are left speechless by traumatic events, it's hard to imagine what's going on in the mind of a child.
We are continuing our breaking news coverage.
Adults often gorge on media images, trying to glean facts, gain perspective.
What was the motive of the alleged shooter? Why would he do this?
To make sense out of a senseless event. But for children, it can have the opposite effect. Today, psychologists and pediatricians are strongly urging parents to shield their school-age children from too much exposure to the news.
For really young children, they can be confused and think that this is happening over and over and over again. They don't necessarily know that it's on loop. For older kids or kids who are in who are around 8, 9, 10, they might sort of just be inundated with anxiety and people's fear and people's stress, and it can overwhelm their capacity to cope.
Elementary school is supposed to be a safe, innocent place, but today's shooting shatters that notion for parents. If your children are old enough to ask questions, instead of talking to the kids, try just listening.
Start by asking them, what do you know? How are you feeling? Ask open-ended questions so that you can start from there. A lot of times we think they want to know lots and lots of information that adults want to know, but children don't necessarily have the same questions or have the same needs.
When they do ask questions, don't hide from their concerns, but try not to over-answer either.
And that just can heighten their anxiety?
Or confuse them. It could make them more anxious. It could plant seeds, maybe ideas that hadn't occurred to them.
While we don't want to hide our emotions, try not to be overly emotional either in front of the kids.
Because kids get their cues from their grown-ups.
We look to grown-ups to interpret situations for us. It's called social referencing. It's what kids do. So we're all sort of being watched, and kids are looking to us to let them know, how should we be reacting to this?
And so if parents are overreacting?
Understandable, but try to share your sadness and your anxiety and your fear and your anger with other adults and shield children from those conversations.
Mental health experts told us they've learned a lot from the experience of 9/11.
A number of children were traumatized who had no direct contact with 9/11, but rather watched the media extensively. And for those children, a term was coined called secondary terrorism.
For parents, it's a delicate balancing act, calibrated to each child's personality. Is my kid anxious? Is she fearful?
Right now, you're going to see a lot of anger, you're going to see a lot of sadness, a lot of tears. But over time, watch for these kinds of things. Watch for children who are having trouble sleeping or eating. Kids who can't focus, they can't go to school, they can't resume their normal activities. Or children who are just obsessed with worrying. All they can think about and talk about is this event. Those kids, you're going to want to get them some special help.
Reassure them that they're safe. The images can be haunting. Explain in concrete terms that the police and teachers are working to keep schools safe, and explain that this is a very, very rare event.
Parents are able to put it in perspective. Like, they know the odds are incredibly long
Yes.
that their child's school is going to have this kind of incident, and yet kids might not know that.
That's right. We develop thinking errors like that sometimes after a trauma, and kids are especially prone to it. They're especially prone to what we call magical thinking or associative logic. So if it happened in a kindergarten classroom, it'll happen in another kindergarten classroom.
You have to correct their magical thinking.
That's right.
But the professionals we spoke with told us that the best comfort may not be verbal.
There's a superb body of research, from animal research to human research, research with premature babies. And what this all comes to is that the touch, the comforting, has strong biological effects. And so it's not just a cliche of parenthood, it's wisdom through the ages that has now science behind it.
An idea endorsed by President Obama earlier today.
This evening, Michelle and I will do what I know every parent in America will do, which is hug our children a little tighter, and we'll tell them that we love them.
So when words fail us, never underestimate the power of an embrace. Every parent knows that school can be a source of anxiety, too, for young kids regardless. I spent the day interviewing those trauma experts and child psychologists, and they all say the same thing. Kids depend on parents to feel safe. So while it may not be appropriate to hold a school assembly, which might just increase fears, schools are a source of community, and parents should check in with their teachers and administrators to see how their kids are responding. But as a sad footnote, Cynthia, Sandy Hook's school principal was among those killed today, and that community will need a lot of support moving ahead.